us tonight are New York Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney and Illinois Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. Thank you both for being here. We talk about all the things that both parties are different on. There are some big issues, obviously, that you all fight about. But one of the reasons we do this is to figure out where you might be able to find common ground. For the two of you who've worked together up on Capitol Hill, where is that? First to you, Congresswoman.
Representative Krishnamurthy and I came in as freshmen in 2016, and we signed a commitment to civility, and we were very committed to that. We made sure we did legislation together, we worked together as freshmen, and we want to continue doing that. And so I think that interesting that Raj and I actually have a lot in common that would be surprising maybe to your audience. And one of those things is dealing with global hunger. It's very important to us. Also dealing with the protests in China, the protests in Iran, and freedom around the world, and supporting democratic principles.
Hey, thank you so much. And I echo Claudia's sentiments. One other thing that she didn't mention that we share in common is that I actually immigrated with my family to upstate New York from India when we first came to the United States when I was 3 months old. So I was born in New Delhi, India, and came from one of the hottest places in the world to one of the not so hot hottest places in the world in Buffalo, New York. But in any case, we worked together on a number of issues, as Claudia mentioned, and I'm so happy to be on with you, Bret, and thank you for doing this.
So we talk about China and the importance of that issue for the U.S. And Congresswoman, you mentioned the protests that are going on there. What technically do you think you could do in Congress to make your feelings known about that potentially affect the administrations?
In the name of recognizing some of these really courageous acts by these protesters who are standing up under these COVID lockdowns. But I think it's more than that. It's standing up to the Chinese Communist Party. We are kind of like the Rust Belt of New York. And, we have done a lot to try to bring those jobs back, bring our supply chain back, and to really encourage the administration and the other side to see that we need to talk about prosperity and bringing back an economically friendly environment.
Congressman, do you think that Congress fully appreciates the threat from China?
I think that we need to act more forcefully to protect ourselves. Under Chairman Xi Jinping, they've really consolidated their power. They're throwing their elbows militarily in their neighborhood, so to speak, whether it's the South China Sea or Taiwan or even India. They are also practicing unfair economic policies. They're dumping goods to try to undermine our industries. They're also conducting espionage on an industrial scale, and not just with regard to U.S. national security interests, but also private corporate and business interests. And when you couple all that with their crackdown on human rights within the People's Republic of China, it's a dangerous brew, and it poses a long-term threat to the United States and the world.
You mentioned food security, and there was a bill that you both signed on to. Congresswoman.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people don't know what we do together as members in a bipartisan way, because so much is focused on one side or the other. And global food security, global hunger is a real problem, especially in a lot of these countries where you've seen a downturn in their economies. You've seen more dictatorships arising and less interest in really helping the neediest in those communities. And I think that's where you'll see more bipartisan step up, like the bill that Mr. Krishnamurthy and I, or Raja, I should call you Raja, the two of us co-sponsored.
Congresswoman, do you think it's going to be Speaker McCarthy come January 3rd?
I think he deserves a chance to lead, and I think some of those that are objecting ought to give him that chance. And if they don't like how he leads, then we have a chance to revisit this issue. But I think right now, with such a slim majority, we really need to really shore up our conference.
Congresswoman, you mentioned China and food security. Is there something else that you would pick up the phone and call Raja, let's say, use his first name, and say, let's get a deal on something else?
I'd love to be able to call Raj up and say, where can we come to some middle ground on energy and making sure that we are still productive, we're prosperous, and we have a reliable energy source that will lead us into the future, and not something that takes us down a path of really, I think, a dangerous path of lack of security, lack of prosperity in our communities.
Congressman, last word. Does your leadership encourage doing business with the other side like this, like we're talking about?
Absolutely, and if I had a chance, I'd pick up the phone and call Claudia and say, hey, let's work on skills-based and vocational education modernization. This is a passion of mine. I think that we spend way too much time and focus on four-year colleges and universities as being the primary vehicle for post-secondary education, when roughly 2/3 of Americans don't have a four-year college degree. Elections are kind of drawing us apart. A lot of the rhetoric tends to pull us apart. But at the end of the day, we're all Americans. We have to pull together to face our common challenges, whether it's food insecurity, which Congresswoman Tenney eloquently spoke about, or whether it's the Chinese Communist Party threat, or any number of other challenges. What we share in common far surpasses what divides us.
Well, we thank you both for being on common ground. Pass the word up there. Hopefully there'll be more of you to come on. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.